Andres de AA Sports here with another video covering Mexican football and the Mexico National Team. The Mexico National Team just played their second of two games this month versus Belgium in Chicago. And just like the game versus Portugal, the game ended in a draw, this time 1-1, 1-1. Nevertheless, this was still a good performance for Mexico that saw them score first, looking much better offensively, and the substitutions made in this game were definitely better than they were versus Portugal. And just like the game versus Portugal, there were many positive things from certain players and the defense in this performance that resulted in this solid draw result that Mexico can and will use to continue to build up positive momentum as they look ahead to the World Cup, where they will play against South Africa in the opening game, South Korea, and now Czechia after they qualified for the tournament today. And after holding their own once again in this game against a very good Belgium national team, I do like Mexico's chances of doing well in the group stage this summer. Final score, 1-1. Mexico tie versus Belgium in Chicago. Here are their grades for this game. Goalkeeper, B. Tala Rangel was the starting goalkeeper, which essentially confirms that Javier Aguirre wants him as the starting goalkeeper in the World Cup. And the questions around Rangel and whether he is good enough or not to be the starting goalkeeper were sort of answered and at the same time also not fully answered and still remain a debate. Tala Rangel made some basic and very easy saves and went through many of the other motions without any mistakes. He did concede the game-tying goal to Dodi Lukebakio, and while there is debate about whether or not Tala could have done better to reach the ball to try and block it, I am not going to 100% blame him for this goal conceded. It was a really good shot from Lukebakio, where if anything, you're looking at Gallardo for giving him space on the play. However, outside of that, again, Tala went through the rest of the motions well, but was never tested outside of that. To be honest, both clean sheets for him in these games have mostly been because the defenders played well and not from him facing shots and making saves you want to see him make. With that, the questions about whether he can consistently perform well when he gets tested and faces shots still remains in the air, and we will have to wait until Mexico's next game in May to find out the answer to this. Center backs, A. Vasquez and Montes were again the starting center backs as expected, and both had another solid performance. Johan Vasquez had 2 tackles, 1 and 3 clearances, while Montes had 2 clearances and 2 recoveries of the ball on pass attempts through the middle in Mexico's defensive third that he intercepted well. They are going to be the starting center backs in the World Cup, as they should, because they are the 2 best on the team. Fullbacks, B+. Jorge Sanchez and Jesus Gallardo were the starting fullbacks, a duo that many fans do not want to see and are tired of seeing, and a duo that many fans had doubts about when it was confirmed that they were in the starting 11 for this game. However, while there have been doubts about Jorge Sanchez that even I have noted, in my roster video, I even said that Jorge Sanchez is a very 50-50 scenario, you have to give credit when it's deserved. Jorge Sanchez actually had a really good performance, and it was Jorge Sanchez who scored the goal for Mexico in this game. This is his 3rd goal for the national team, and along with this great offensive contribution, he had 4 tackles, 1 an interception, and 5 recoveries of the ball defensively. This was arguably the best performance of his career with the national team. Now, does this mean he should be the starting right back in the World Cup? I don't agree with this idea at all. It's worth noting that in this game, Jeremy Doku did not start, and when Jorge Sanchez had to defend against him in the second half, he did start to look shaky and got a yellow card for fouling him. So I don't think he is good enough to be a starter when Mexico plays against the best of the best. However, in this game where he was definitely on the hot seat after his poor performances in January. It was clear that his move to PAOK in Greece at the end of January was, it has definitely elevated his skill level. And with it, and after this performance, it is possible that he could make the World Cup roster as a substitute player for whoever the starting right back will be. The question, should this happen, is whether or not we will see this version of Jorge Sanchez that played well, or the version of him in January or in the Gold Cup where he was awful. That will all depend on how he performs in their final preparation games in May. Israel Reyes entered the game as a substitute, replacing Jorge Sanchez in the right back position, and had a rather shaky game in comparison to when he started versus Portugal. His biggest mistake in this game was a moment where he nearly scored an own goal, poorly clearing an opposing cross, kicking the ball out of bounds near the post and conceding a corner kick to Belgium. Definitely a bad look for him that fortunately didn't result in anything that would have been more humiliating. Outside of that, he was okay with 2 clearances and blocking an opposing shot. Jesus Gallardo was the starting left back, and he was also shaky in this game. While he had 4 tackles won, 2 interceptions, and 4 ball recoveries, he was also at fault for the goal conceded against Luque Bacchio. Gallardo gave him all the space in the world to take the shot and should have pressured him, but did not. And it's moments like this against big teams that are why many fans argue Gallardo is no longer good enough to be the starting left back. I do agree with this idea as well, as I would prefer to see Mateo Chavez as the starting 3 instead of Gallardo. We'll see what Aguirre decides in May. Overall, though, the defense for Mexico had another very good game, where the center backs and fullbacks combined for 10 tackles won, 7 clearances, and 8 interceptions. The defensive backline is without a doubt the strongest part of the team entering the World Cup. Alright, moving on to the midfielders for Mexico in this game. B grade. Eric Lira, Alvaro Fidalgo, and Orbelin Pineda were the starting midfielders in the game. Lira had 2 tackles won and 6 ball recoveries, and has done well as the defensive midfielder in these 2 games, filling in for an injured Edson Alvarez. I thought Fidalgo had another good game where he was very good with possession and accurate passes. He might start in the World Cup given his good form. As for Orbelin, offensively, he was definitely the odd man out, given Aguirre was trying to play him more offensively when he normally plays as an 8. Still, he was solid defensively with 2 tackles won and 6 ball recoveries, so he still played a part in Mexico having a lot more ball possession in this game in comparison to the game versus Portugal. Obed Vargas entered the game as a substitute for Orbelin in the second half, and while he didn't play as well as he did versus Portugal and only touched the ball 16 times, it was still a clean game where he was accurate in his passes with the ball. Offensive front, B+. Raul was the starting striker, and Quiñones and Gutierrez started alongside him as wingers. I first want to talk about Raul Jimenez because I saw many fans criticize his performances in these games, and while these definitely were not his best performances, I think this is more due to where he is at mentally right now than a actual decline in his form. For those who don't know, a couple of weeks prior to these games for Mexico, his father unfortunately passed away. So he is playing amid a very emotionally hard time. My thoughts and prayers are with him and his family. And I admire Raul's dedication for him to still be willing to play in these games and be there for the team. He likely did this knowing that the World Cup is just around the corner. With that, I respect him for still trying to play and be there for the team because, honestly, I don't think anybody would have blamed him if he had chosen to not play in these games due to this reason. With that, while this wasn't his best 2 games, I think Raul should get a pass for how he performed in these games. Despite Raul and the starting offensive players not being able to score a goal in this game, They still had a solid performance where they would create a lot of link-up plays and pass the ball well among each other. Julian Quiñones especially was very active offensively and in link-up plays in this game. And if anything, his performance showed that Aguirre should have been calling him up and playing him way more than he has been. Hormiga Gonzalez replaced Raul in the second half, but didn't make much of an impact, only touching the ball 6 times. Granted, at that point, Mexico started to play a bit more defensively again, but still not ideal. Alexis Vega replaced Quiñones in the 69th minute and had a non-existent performance, really, where he looked like an out-of-shape player just coming back from injury, because he is. Again, at this point, with Alexis Vega not being able to consistently replicate his good club form with the national team, I think it would be better for Aguirre to call up newer and younger wingers. As for Piojo Alvarado, he had yet another poor performance offensively, but was excellent defensively with 4 tackles won and shutting down Jeremy Doku, one of Belgium's best. Honestly, I think Piojo would be better as a right back going forward should he continue being called up, and Aguirre should play him there and call up a new right winger instead. It sounds crazy, but it's true. I think Piojo at this point might actually work as a right back because he's much better defensively than he is offensively. Head coach, B+. This was a much better game for Aguirre as the head coach. He again put almost all of his best players in the starting lineup, and his substitutions were better than they were versus Portugal. And best of all, when he made substitutions, he put in the best players among those sitting on the bench and didn't play Tronco Rodriguez or Beterame and force it with players who are clearly awful. It seems Aguirre learned from his mistake with Tronco Rodriguez after what happened versus Portugal in Estadio Azteca, where Tronco was booed by all the Mexico fans when he entered the game as a substitute, and then proved the fans perfectly right by having a horrible performance. It is clear that the midfield and the team as a whole is better without Tronco Rodriguez, and when Aguirre doesn't try to experiment too much and just simply plays his best players and coaches in a way to try and get a good result. And the first half proved it, where his team played really solid football in this game. Overall, a much better coaching performance and much better decisions made by Javier Aguirre. If Javier Aguirre plays those who are clearly his best players, and if they can play like this in the World Cup with a little more offensively to their style of play, I think they will do well into the group stage of the World Cup. And lastly, my bonus grade for this game, the Mexican Football Federation, B grade. I love how they organized this game against another strong opponent that elevates the team's skill level and style of play. The Federation did well here and needs to continue this in the future. However, going forward, I do agree that big games like this should be held in Mexico. Now, my main critique again goes back to their decision to wear their away jerseys for the reopening of Estadio Azteca versus Portugal. Well, the away jersey looks great. It does. It looks great. But given they played in their away jersey for this game versus Belgium, it makes their decision to wear their away jersey at home in Estadio Azteca look worse. I get that the team and Adidas were trying to promote the new away jersey for Mexico, but for that game in Estadio Azteca, Mexico should have worn their green home jerseys, especially given how they could have used this game like they did to debut their white away jerseys instead. Adidas and the Federation put the advertising of the new jersey, of the new away jersey, over the national team's identity, which they should never do again. When they play games in Mexico, especially in Estadio Azteca, the team's official home stadium, they should always play in their home jerseys. And because this is in the rules, in FIFA's rules, they should only wear their away or third jerseys when they absolutely have to, in cases where they must avoid confusions regarding which players are on this or that team. Fortunately, Mexico will likely get to play their World Cup games in their home jerseys, so we won't have to see Mexico in their away jerseys in the opening game in June. Final score, 1-1, 1-1. Mexico ties versus Belgium, and for an overall team grade for this performance, I am giving the Mexico national team a B+ grade. If there is anything we learned from these two results in March, it is that the team has definitely improved and made progress and entered the World Cup in a much better state than they entered the Copa America in 2024. And given how the other CONCACAF nations played this month, it's possible that Mexico is entering May and the World Cup as the CONCACAF team in the best form. And that is a good thing. With that, for the month of March and these two games, I will also give the team a very solid B+ grade. Let me know your opinions on the game in the comments below. Andres de AA Sports. That will be all for this video. If you enjoy my content covering Mexican football, leave a like and subscribe to support the channel and stay updated on the videos that I publish. Stay tuned in for more content that will be covering the Mexico women's national team's games in April. Until then, thanks for watching. Viva Mexico!